So last week we launched a series of messages on the book of Proverbs, and the book of Proverbs is there for some very specific and very particular reasons that I'm going to get to in just a moment. But last week we peeled back and gave a generalized statement that covers the entire 31 chapters of the book of Proverbs. We encourage people to start reading a chapter a day, so today would be day 7. Right? You're reading day 7 today or chapter 7 today in the book of Proverbs. If you made a decision to read through every chapter every day, or one chapter a day, starting last Sunday with chapter 1. So we kind of encapsulated everything that is found in the book of Proverbs through this single statement. Your direction determines your destination. Your direction determines your destination. Now, that's not rocket surgery or brain science. But the fact of the matter is that we do these messages, and God gave us the book of Proverbs because we get off path and we do not allow our direction to align with our hoped destination. We get off path. All of us are off path. That's why we need a Savior. Just so you know, we need Jesus because we're all off path. There's nobody sitting around you who is perfect. I really thought somebody would say, I am, but I gave a moment there. No, nobody. Jesus was the only one who's perfect, the only one who gave his perfect life for us, and that's why we need a Savior, because we're not perfect, and we all get off path. And so the book of Proverbs is there for us to kind of bring us back on path to say, look, your direction will determine your destination. And ultimately, your hoped in destination is heaven and eternity, right? I mean, nobody wants to go to hell. Nobody wants the alternative of heaven. So we're all trying to do the right thing, live a good life, so that ultimately, when we're gone, it can say something really amazing on our tombstone, but ultimately, really, we're in heaven, right? That's our destination. And our direction needs to be in alignment with our hoped destination. The trouble is we get wonky at times. We get kind of off path, right? We get going, let me see, we're really good at chasing shiny things. And squirrels. And Disney. And anyway. And here's the thing. We have great intentions. Let's just be honest. We have great intentions. We get up in the morning like, I'm going to do this today. Man, that's why at the beginning of the year, every gym in the region is packed with people. We have great intentions. Do you know that by March, it's no problem finding an exercise machine at a gym? They're all available. Because by March, the intentions are gone. Because you see, intentions will not get you where you're trying to go. And we know that, right? I'm not telling you something you don't already know. Intentions don't work. I mean, if intentions work, we would all be fantastic people, right? We'd be fit, we'd be healthy, we'd be famous, we'd be financially sound, we'd be a great spouse to our mate. I mean, we would be wonderful people, right? If intentions would solve all of our problems. If hopes and dreams would solve all of our problems, we would be amazing people. The thing is, that doesn't do it, does it? No, it's our direction. And the thing is, we need to start directing our lives, putting ourselves in the direction toward the destination we are hoping for. And Proverbs helps us do that. It actually says in Proverbs chapter 1, it says this: the purpose is to teach people wisdom and discipline, to help them understand the insights of the wise. This is in Proverbs chapter 1, verses 2, 3, and 4. It says in verse 3, their purpose is to teach people to live disciplined and successful lives, to help them do what is right, just, and fair. These proverbs will give insight to the simple, knowledge and discernment to the young. I mean, who doesn't want these things, right? We want wisdom in our lives. I mean, it says to the young, but the fact of the matter is we all need this. If you're not young in the room, you can't write this off. I mean, we're learning until we take our last breath, right? We're all seeking wisdom and knowledge in our lives, and we all need to have these kinds of words spoken to us, because the fact of the matter is that our directions get off. from time to time in certain areas of our lives. We might have some areas we're doing great, right? Some areas we're doing fantastic, and some areas in our lives we've just gotten off. And what we said last week is a small percentage of course variation will eventually mean a large percentage of course variation, right? And we said last week, if I'm trying to get to Baltimore, I'm not going to get on Route 81 North, right? That doesn't work. Route 81 North is not going to get me to Baltimore, ever, right? I mean, I'm going to go up into Canada. It's going to get really cold. It's going to get really icy. I'm going to have to stop, or I'm going to have to keep going all the way around, circumnavigate the globe to come back around to Baltimore if I'm trying to get there by going north. It's not going to work, right? It would be a lot easier if I got on 83 South, right? But see, that's what we do. We think, well, I'm trying to get there, but that's just not important enough yet, or that's just not significant enough yet, or just don't know how to do that, and so I'm going to go this direction instead. And so I think it's important for us to spend some time learning some things that we all need to learn and finding out some things that God wants to teach us. And in learning all this, there's a singular word that I'm going to hone in on this morning that's found throughout the book of Proverbs, a singular word. And the word is this. It's not a word we use very often anymore. You're not going to hear it by the water cooler tomorrow at work. You're not going to go to your spouse and use this word. People would look at you funny. But the word is prudent. Prudent. It's a word we don't use very often, prudent. But it's a word that means something powerful and profound for us. As we look at the book of Proverbs, prudent means knowing what to do, having the knowledge to know what to do, and to incorporate that knowledge in such a way that you exercise good judgment and you have common sense. Now, I know some of you are sitting in the room, as soon as you heard the word common sense, you went, yeah, something that's not very common, right? I mean, common sense is kind of what we're sort of pushing for here. We just want to be smarter about things, right? We want to do things better. We want more wisdom in our lives, and the book of Proverbs is helpful in that. It says in Proverbs 14, verse 15, it says, only the simpletons believe everything they're told. The prudent carefully consider their steps. In Proverbs chapter 27, verse 12, it says, the prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. How many of you have gotten up in the middle of the night and tried to walk through your house in the dark? Right? Yeah, we're not alone, right? You're not alone. It's okay. You didn't have to raise your hand. We know you've done this. We know you've tried to walk through your house in the middle of the night. And we also know you suffered the consequences, right? We know that. I don't have to call you out. You don't have to say, yeah, I've been there. We don't have to do a testimony time of the time that you hit your shin on the coffee table, right? Because it's right at that level. They put them right at that level, right? I think there should be like a nighttime light strip on coffee tables. Like it just comes on, it closes at night, whatever. That's why we do night lights, right? I mean, the prudent will say, look, I need to turn the lights on or I'm going to suffer the consequences. We have a cat in my house. I don't have a cat. My wife has a cat. Actually, the cat has us. You know cats. Anyway, but cats have this amazing ability to like barf in the middle of the night and leave it right where you're going to walk, right? I have learned prudence is turning the light on and making sure that you're looking for those little landmines that are laying around from the cat. God bless that cat when it dies. Anyway, there's a rainbow bridge just waiting. Just like, yay. Go toward the light. Sorry. This cat, like my wife brings this cat in. What lap does it choose to sit on? Mine. Like really? Like, wow. They know. It's like they know. Like, right, okay. But the prudent, but let me get back to the message, because I could do cat for hours. But the prudent, I mean, the prudent person says, look, okay, I made a mistake once. I'm going to learn from my mistake, right? And I'm going to do something, what? Different. And we all know people who have not learned from their mistakes, right? It's none of us. It's not us in this room. We're the smart ones, right? Yeah. And you're thinking right now, oh, I wish so-and-so were here to hear this message. But the fact of the matter is every one of us needs this message because we all do this. The primary difference, listen to this, the primary difference between the prudent and the simple-minded is not that they don't see the same thing. They do. They see the exact same thing. The primary difference between the prudent and the simple-minded is that the prudent will do the right thing. They will respond differently. The simple-minded will just keep on doing the same old thing, right? What do we need to do then? If we're going to be prudent in our lives, there are some things in your life, there's some things in my life that we need to do. We need to make some adjustments. We need to make some course corrections in our lives. That's our first teaching note this morning. Please write that down. If you write it down, you'll remember it longer. The prudent make course corrections. We foresee the dangers, we see what's coming, and we make adjustments. I mean, this is Titanic kind of thing, right? You make a course correction if you see something happening, if you see something coming. You make sure that you've got your eyes on your life and the things that can happen, because ultimately we've got a destination. Yes, it's one day at a time, I get that. But every single day cumulatively builds up to get to this place where we're striving to be at. A better Christian, a better husband, a better wife, a better man, a better woman, a better student, a better workmate. Better, more responsible, more, all those things that we're trying to do, the things that we're trying to get to. Because unlike the prudent, the simple just keep on going. I mean, this is kind of Energizer Bunny for some people, right? They just keep doing the same old thing. It's the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. It doesn't work that way. The prudent person senses that a relationship is moving in an unhealthy direction and they make a decision to do something about it. The simple-minded says, whatever. The prudent person sees trouble in their financial horizon and they do something about it. The simple just keep on spending. Somebody has to make a decision, and the simple-minded says, we'll worry about it later. The prudent person realizes that God is the most important thing in life, and yet the simple-minded never make a decision to invest in their faith. And there are consequences. So let's be clear. The second part of chapter 27, verse 12 says this: the simpleton goes blindly on and suffers consequences. I mean, there are consequences for our actions, right? We wrestle with the consequences of our actions. There are penalties to pay if we do not make course corrections in our lives. And there are things you and I all need to do. We all have these in our lives. For some of us in the room, they're very minor things. You've managed all the big ones. Now you're starting to work on the minor ones. For some of us in the room, this is big. This is huge. And I want to pull back on this proverb and help us all this morning get to the place. Because whether you're 30 years old or 50 years old or 15 years old or 500 years old, we all need, nobody's 500, right? No, we all need this kind of wisdom in our lives. The 20-something who knows that he's gaining a little weight right now will struggle at 40 or 50, right? Some of you in the room just nudged somebody. I know it. The parent who says, they're talking back a little bit, but it's going to be okay, eventually gets to a place where he says, you know what, this has become a problem. Or the couple who thinks, we really need to get on a budget someday, but let's just go have fun right now. We'll just put it on the credit card, all right? So how do we choose the right path? Well, here's the key. The prudent people know that it's not what they see that makes a difference, because we all see the same thing. It's not what we see that makes the difference, it's what we do that makes a difference. The simple-minded do nothing. The prudent person makes a course correction. So here's what we need to do. How do you make a course correction? First off, you do something. You do something. This is, I think, one of the most difficult and challenging things. You say, God, what am I going to do? You do something. You start making a move. I think God sits in heaven and says, are you going to do something about that? And we're like, God, are you going to do something about that? And God says, yeah, go for it. So let's see what happens. Take a leap. See what's God. I honestly believe God is sometimes waiting on us to make a step, and God says, "Good, nice job. Do it again. Okay, good job." I mean, God can be a great cheerleader in that respect. And I think there are times when God is saying, "Come on, do something," right? Do something. Take action. And here's the difficulty. We tend to sit into habits. And habits have momentum behind them because they're easy. We build ruts and they're easy to sit in those grooves. And those habits are so challenging for us. And it's so hard for us to break out of them. That we lean into them, we go to them because they're habitual. And that habit creates momentum for us. It's just easy to go there. And so the next thing that some of us need to do in this room is that we need to break that habit and give something up. Stop doing whatever it was or whatever it is that's plaguing you right now. I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and this is a guy I can be just completely raw and completely honest with. And, I know him and he knows me, and, we kind of have this really great conversation, and at one point in the conversation, I looked at him and said, I'm just going to throw this out at you. Are you still smoking cigarettes? And he says, man, I hate you. I'm like, so what's the answer? Because I think I know the answer based on that response, but he's like, yeah, I'm still smoking. I'm like, dude, why are you doing that? It's affecting your body. He's like, yeah, I know. I mean, this is a guy who trains and, works out. He's pretty fit. And then he's smoking this. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I know. I really need to quit. I said, no, you don't really need to quit. You have to stop this. This is not good for you. First off, it's not good for your finances. Do you know how much a pack of cigarettes cost? If you just nodded your head, just saying. Sometimes the sermon steps on toes. I mean, this stuff is expensive. You know what you could do with that? Have you done the math on if you're smoking a pack a day? Have you done the math on that one? Man, you could be investing in vacations. You could be investing in your kids. You could be putting college funds away with that money. Holy cow. Gosh, let alone what you're doing to your body. Because, dude, I don't want to come and visit you in the hospital when they've got you hooked up on every machine known to humanity. I don't want to do that. And he's like, yeah, you're right. 2 weeks later, he looked at me and he said, look, I'm on the patch. Yes. That's wise. That's taking a chance and making a step and taking action. And sometimes it just means giving something up. And for some of us in the room, it's our finances. I just need to give something up. For some of us in the room, it's something much more deeper than that. For example, I cannot listen to my wife when the TV's on. It's just a character flaw in my life. I know it's there, I've learned it, and I've discovered it the hard way over and over again. But if my wife wants to say something to me, I need to stop watching the TV and actually turn and face her. Or I will allow the TV to distract me, and I will dive into what's called selective hearing. Like, she'll be like, I told you that. I'm like, when? While I was watching the John Wayne movie? Really? Because, nothing gets between me and the Duke. Let's just, if I'm flipping channels and the Duke is on, we're done. You can try to talk to me, but it's not going to happen. It's just we've got to hit pause or something, It's the way it is. And so I've learned that. It's a character flaw. I get that. I'm easily distracted. But so here's what I need to do. If I hear my wife talking, I have to turn my head to her. away from the TV and ignore what's happening. And I have to do it on purpose. I have to give that up in order to make sure she knows how valuable she is to me. Do you get that? Does that make sense? Again, not rocket science, not brain surgery. Sometimes some of us just need to give something up. And the last thing we need to do is we need to commit to some things wholeheartedly and fully. And I got 5 things for you. Now, these are all written down in your program. You can fill in the blanks if you want to remember what the 5 are. All right? And they're also on the app that we have for you. The first one is this: we need to do something right in these 5 areas. The first one is we need to make adjustments in our spiritual lives. We need to start making adjustments in our spiritual lives. We have a destination, but our direction in our spiritual life is often off course a little bit, right? We could be better at this. We could get this better. One of the things for me is daily prayer life, daily Bible reading the Bible every day. These things aren't hard. You can set your phone. You can take your phone or you can hand it to a teenager. They'll do it for you. Right? They're like, yeah, here you go. There. You're going to get a notification every day at 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay, make it 7. All right, good. We got it. All right, great. And then, you'll get a ding, and there'll be a Bible verse, and then you can read the Bible verse every day. You should be able to do this. Like it will feed right to you. And then you're like, Lord, I don't know what you want to do with that verse in my life, but do something. Now, please don't do this while you're driving. This is not a good idea. But, when 7 o'clock in the morning, you're having breakfast and your phone goes off and it's a Bible verse and you get to read it. It's like, come on, we can do this, right? You can do this. We live in an age when technology helps us become more spiritually in tune with who God is and what God wants for your life and for mine. We should be able to ramp up our spiritual life. You and I should be able to take this more seriously because our direction determines our destination. Are you on the right path to reach the spiritual destination God has for you? Secondly, spiritual first, relational second. In my life, God comes first and my family comes second. Everything else is after that. So our relational lives, we can be better in our relational lives. We can step up our relational life and do something monumental that will make sure that other people know how much we value them and how much they are, what their importance is to us. People mean something to us. And we all have a hard time showing that at different times. We could step in and make purposeful decisions. A course correction. If your marriage is struggling right now, there's something you can probably do to make that better. You can be determined, you can be purposeful so that your direction is in line with your destination. If your work relationships are struggling, there's something you can probably do about it. If your friendship connections are struggling, there's probably something you can do to step into that and be better at it, or to help solve or resolve the issues that you're facing. Our relational decisions can get a course direction. We can become more wise in our relational lives. Next thing, we can do something right in our moral life. In our moral lives. Our spiritual life, our relational life, our moral life. So just to give you an idea of what I mean by that, there are moral decisions that you and I need to make. There are boundaries that we need to have in our lives, what we allow to come in to our eyes, into our ears, into our minds, into our hearts. We need to filter those things, and we need to have limitations on what we have and what we will allow into our purview. Some people can handle a much bigger volume. Other people need to keep it really narrow, right? And some of you know what I mean. It could be anything from pornography to the list goes on. Whatever those boundaries are, you need to step up and make sure those boundaries are in line with what your destination is for your life, what your hopeful destination is. So let me just give you a real quick example. The other day I was talking with a couple, and this couple have become really, really good friends of mine. And so we were going to meet together, and we were going to sit and talk about something, and the husband was over here, the wife was over here, and I was here at the church, and we were all going to meet down close to where the husband's at. So he said, why don't you just swing by, pick up my wife, and then bring her, and we'll all meet together. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And he was like, well, you're busy? What's going on? I said, no, I don't ride alone in my car with another woman outside of my wife. I just won't do it. I mean, I cannot be seen in my vehicle alone with another woman. I won't eat out at a restaurant alone with another woman. I don't counsel alone with a woman. I just don't. I have those boundaries. For her, for me, for my wife, for my marriage, for the church, that's a boundary that Billy Graham set, and I figured if it's good enough for Billy Graham, right? And the wife looked at me and looked at him and said, that's a really good idea. Because we could be sitting at a traffic light and somebody could look over and say, there's Pastor Dave, and that's not his wife. Wow. And you know what happens, right? So we're just not going to go. That's a moral boundary I've set. I don't know what those are for you, but we need to be setting those. And we need to hold on to them and not let. I have ridden, in my 22 years of being the pastor here at CrossPoint Church, I have ridden once in a car with a woman by ourselves. We had to make a run out to Sam's Club and pick up a list of things. So Barb Bell, the office manager, and our executive director called Julie at work and said, Julie, just so you know, Dave is in the car with Kathy Goodman, and they're on their way to Sam's Club to pick something up. They'll be right back. Is that okay? And Julie's like, yeah, I think we'll be all right. Once in 22 years. It's just boundaries. Moral boundaries. And that just protects everybody. It protects us as a church. The last thing you need to do is to have somebody say to you, hey, I saw your pastor in his car the other day with some other woman. What's that about? I mean, we don't need that, right? I think we underestimate boundaries and our moral decisions to keep us on path with the direction God has for our lives. Okay, next one. So we got spiritual, we got relational, we have moral, and we have physical. The last thing you need to do is to let your body deteriorate. This is a gift of God. Jesus says to each one of us, I am going to send my spirit to come and reside in you. And that means you are the living temple of God on earth. You are the walking. Before Jesus, it was the temple in Jerusalem. Once Jesus dies and gives his life and rises from the dead and imparts his spirit, he says, each one of you now are the living, roaming temple of God. Take care of the temple. You can't do Dunkin' Donuts every morning. It just doesn't work, right? You've got to take care of this temple and watch out over it. None of us do a great job at this. I love fried food. That was confessional, by the way. That was just me confessing to you right now. Just like, hold me accountable, please. Because if we go out and they have fish and chips, I'm all in. I'm done right there. I'm like, it's fish. She's like, no. We all struggle with this one, right? We could get better. If your destination is a healthy life, then we could get better in our direction. So we have spiritual, relational, moral, physical, and the last one is financial. Jesus talks a lot about how finances can get in the way of every other aspect of our lives, right? And so your financial life, making sure that your direction is in line with your hopeful financial destination. So we're actually doing something very different this week that we've never done before. During Vacation Bible School, we figure as young couples are dropping their kids off here at the church, on Tuesday night and Thursday night, we're actually going to provide a financial counseling session. It's going to happen over my office, so we have room for about 10 to 12 people. So if you want to drop off your kids, or if you're like, well, I don't have kids, can I still come? Yes, absolutely, we'll make room. We could probably push 15 in there. But we're going to, and it's my office because it's the only room available in the whole building on Vacation Bible School Week. But we just thought we're going to do this while we've got this high level of activity. If you want to drop your kids off or be here that night and pop into a financial management class and learn from some professionals who can walk you through how to take care of your finances, what it looks like right now, and what you might need to do to adjust that. Tuesday night and Thursday night, 2 independent classes. You can plug into either one of those, right? 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Because we're just committed to this. We're committed to you caring for yourself and putting your life in the right direction. Now, I know this isn't easy. As a matter of fact, I know this is incredibly complicated. If it wasn't complicated, we'd all have this done, right? We'd all be working it all out if it was totally easy. We'd all be fit. We'd all be financially fine. Our marriages would all be great. Everything would be wonderful, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it just doesn't happen, right? So here's what I want to do next. We're going to do something we've never done before. I met a guy this week by the name of Marshall Angadi. Marshall Angadi is a retired dentist from York, and he is on a spiritual mission to have people in churches praying for each other. And so when you walked into this building today, you got either a blue card if you're a guy, and you got a pink card if you're a gal, right? Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a moment, and I want you to be willing to write your name on that card. Not your whole name, just your first name. Because nobody needs to know you that well in order to pray for you. Now, if you want to give more information, you're welcome to do so. So you see it's optional if you want to give your email address and your phone number. If you want to give your whole name, that's fine. But really, all we need is just your first name on one of these cards. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to ask our ushers, our hospitality team, to get ready with some offering bags and come up through and collect these. So if our hospitality team can go ahead and jump up and get ready to do this, I'm going to ask you to put your first name on one of these cards. And then I'm going to ask the hospitality team to collect these cards up. They're going to bring them up front, and I'm going to pray over them. And then we're going to step into our time of offering. And as we step into our time of offering, you're going to get offering bags passed among you. That's what we do here. And you can put an offering in, a gift for the church, or whatever you'd like to do. And then the second bag that's going to come through is a bag that has one of these cards in it. I'm going to ask you to just reach in and pull out a random card. And for the next 4 weeks, for the rest of this series of messages, I'm going to ask you to pray for that person and pray for the 4 things that you see on the back of the card. So you turn the card over, it says, I'm going to pray and ask that God would create a desire for this person to know him, that God would generate a heart submitted to him, that God would show specifically how to serve him to this person, and that God would grant the courage to serve him to this person I'm praying for. We're going to pray for each other as we strive to do this work for his kingdom. And so if the hospitality team would go ahead and come up front and just work your way to the back and collect all these cards up, let's do that. So we're going to pass these blue bags, and they will have all of these cards in. So take a moment. I know this is risky, and if you're visiting with us this morning, please fill a card out. We would love to pray for you. If you're like, well, I really don't have any connection to this church, that doesn't matter. You have a connection with God. And we'll pray for you, and we just invite you to pray for whoever. Lots of people in this room are going to be praying for somebody they don't know. So whether you're visiting or whether you've been here for 50 years, it doesn't matter. We're just all going to pray for somebody. I think that's the least we can do for one another as we take on the serious challenge of redirecting our lives and getting our lives on course with what God wants for us. So take a moment. We're going to collect these up.